Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron IV with D-Day's Common Units of World War II mod. We're of course playing as the United States, and we're going to continue this from where we last were, of course. Okay, we've got decryption frequency analysis. Oh, and I also want to save this, just to keep a save in case something goes really wrong. Getting too many files in the save. Save folder, need to clear out some of those older ones. That'll make that load up faster. Okay, now we are in July. And I don't think any of this has changed much. Hoping to get some carriers soon. We can upgrade. Well, is there going to be a naval escort? Production cost, that would be good. Expand the Marines? No, so we're gonna research improved class of destroyers. Get that over and done with. We'll upgrade our production to the newer class. Let's rename this Home Front. Home Front. Okay, there we go. That's good. Uh-oh. Manchukuo has capitulated. I know there's a lot of push to have Manchukuo back in the game, and I agree with that, but just been watching this so often here that Manchukuo just seems to collapse too easily. To China now, sometimes Japan will end up taking it all back, but okay, signal company, that's great. Now we've got a lot of naval bases. We finished our battle cruiser. Getting ready for a new model of destroyer coming out very soon. Now, what's our current heavy cruisers like? Still fairly outdated as well. One of those battleships, so I think we're going to produce a lot of submarines for a while. Yeah, we can improve a little bit there with the light cruiser. Just get them out there. Production. Since we just looked at that. Might as well. Now, I've been thinking about, and I've just got some maybe updated code. I thought and either it's changed since an earlier version, which it very well may have. This is seeming to me either I was doing something wrong or it's changed. Some of this is not as hard-coded as I once thought it was. This is just earlier today, actually. I found out, I think, how I'm able to do this. Now, what I'm looking at is, now I wanted to have, say, and remodel this, and I, under research production, is to be able to throw a tank theorist under tank theories, and naval theorist under, right under here, and aviation. Really didn't think these needed theorists, but I don't know. Now, without some major rework and increasing the size of this, I'm limited to 6 across, but I can break some of these up. So, and I really would, if you want to post here on the thread below the video, or if you want to post on the TRE Third Reich Events thread, I'd love to hear your opinions. I want to expand the government. It's a little bit outside of, hey, this is just an event mod, but it really ties into some of the stuff I want to do for Third Reich events and politics, and as this continues to expand. Right now, don't know how much of a standard this may or may not become, and which may or may not become a problem for compatibility with, say, a mod like this, but I don't know that it would be such a real issue. Now, of course, if some other mod, a New World Order mod, which is sort of, I'm getting just the how to code it. I'm not using, and sorry, I forget the modder's name. I'm not using any of his ideas or codes. For his, because he's put in recruitment going all across, for age and how healthy or unhealthy recruitment. Really good stuff, but that's not what I'm planning on touching on at all. What I'm looking at is having a military staff and changing that to Army staff. Now it may get, each country may get customization there, but and I can do that as well, but it would be a chief of the Army, and then I want 2 sub commands, so that would basically move all of the Army sub commands here into the Army sub commands, and similarly another would be air staff, and then naval staff, if you will, again customized for that. And so all the naval personnel and all of the air personnel would be under it. And obviously it changes the game, and Secret Master, who, good guy on the forum there, I like him, he sort of likes this system in that you got to sort of swap things back around. You want to, now obviously we only have 2 choices here, but where in the old Hearts of Iron 3 system, you sort of picked your best things and then you left it, as opposed to, oh, we now want to, like I was sort of thinking about, but I just don't have the political PowerPoint. Oh, well, we want to research a bunch of small arms, let's swap over to Springfield Arsenal, or we designed a battleship under one of these naval types, now we're going to do a carrier, and this does, say this one does carriers better or something, so we're swapping over and designing the carrier under it. So you're jumping back and forth between these things to design certain models under. Well, okay, that's good. That's an interesting idea, and that would have to be, because if you do what I'm doing, you can't, I don't think, I have to look into it, do some of that, or you swapping back and forth, but we just don't have, say, the political PowerPoints generating to readily swap back and forth. Now, if you're doing it every month, that's sort of ridiculous. But say for the year of 1938 we're doing small arms, and in the year of 1939 we're doing artillery. That I think is a reasonable swap back and forth as your primary research and production team. What I'm thinking of doing is running out of space, of course, here, but radically increasing the number here of production teams, so that trying to think how I should put this so that it's clear. So you can say have more than one aircraft producer, and it would obviously take a redesign for all the nations to some degree, so that, how do I put this, all of these guys were all producing aircraft, and I don't know some of the details of how that, what bonuses they should. Obviously they won't all give 10% research time bonuses because that would be too much, but as you add through political PowerPoints, through events, other sorts of means, potentially national focuses or whatever, as you add more of these, they would reduce overall research time. So it may be, say, each one would add 3% or some, and it may go into eventually very customized, one adds 10%, one adds 2% or whatever. It would add various research time bonuses and maybe certain design bonuses to either certain types or to general types of equipment, but have them all, potentially all of them, though there would still be a limited number of slots. It might be 3 instead of, so you might have to pick 3 out of the 5 or whatever that might be available. It might not be, every potential company that was designing aircraft in U.S. or Germany all active at once, but it'd be more than just one. And so I haven't thought all this out yet, but so you might still want to do some swapping back and forth. But I don't know how much players really want to swap these back and forth. So I'm thinking about doing that and having more than one active at a time. I'm also thinking about wanting to do, have an economics type minister, and you've got to pick, and limiting the choices coming out, it could be between these two for the U.S., but you'd have to pick one. Unlike this system here where you can theoretically have both of these guys operating at once, you would have to pick one. So it's sort of a choice-based system in that sense, and if you've maxed out your military, you've filled all of these slots up for all of the U.S., then of course you may want to move from building factories to converting civilian to military factories. So you might want to swap that out. So there would be some of that. So I'm thinking about doing that, and so one staff's choice for each of these. And so obviously right now there's not a lot of naval options here, naval, air, these. So if I was having 2 sub chiefs here, obviously you'd pick your 2 that you want. But eventually what I would want to see happen for the U.S. is, say, one guy that's, and I can presumably look around and find one guy that's for carrier warfare, one guy that's for battleship warfare, one guy that, say, is very good at convoy protection warfare, another guy is sort of like a submarine / commerce raiding proponent, and another guy who, say, would be an amphibious operations expert. So that you would pick your chief of the Navy, based whether on these or maybe some more. So you'd pick him, and he might have, depending on which chief of the Navy, he might have his own benefits in, you know, in certain areas, or just simply overall experience gain or whatever it might be. And then you would say from one of the 5 major categories. Now, of course, you might look around and find 2 or 3 different guys that cover one area and put them all in, because I like doing that with some sort of unique things. But you'd sort of 5 major areas and go, well, early on we want to do commerce protection, and we want to do carrier operations. So those sort of happen. But once you start doing, I don't know, D-Day invasions and Italy, you may want to swap out for your amphibious warfare expert. So it would still be a game of swapping back and forth, more than it was for most players in Hearts of Iron 3. But it would be, it wouldn't be, say, do you want everything in the Navy or do you want everything in the Army? Well, the Army can be fully staffed and the Navy can be fully staffed, as it were. And that would be good. And so obviously somebody like Britain, you're going to have one of the slots in your sub-Navy group would definitely be commerce protection, because so long as the Germans are capable of doing any decent submarine operations, Britain's going to want to do commerce protection. So it comes down to who do you want to put in for your second alternative. Nations like the Soviet Union, well, if they don't have very many naval ministers, and if I don't feel like building them, well, does it really matter? Now, of course, if you're world conquest Soviet Union and you're trying to build a navy to defeat the U.S., yeah, that might matter, but that's sort of going beyond the scope of most of how I want to mod. And then, what about Romania? Well, they might have the free slots, but just not the naval personnel, but that sort of reflects that they are a minor. They have they had a navy. It was very small, but obviously they built no battleships, they built no carriers, and I'm not designing a mod that supports world conquest as Romania. Not that somebody couldn't take the idea and make a sub mod and do that, but that's not what I'm building for. So it would sort of kind of, I hope without too overpowering, but sort of kind of show why majors are majors and minors are minors. It's not just, well, look at Poland's almost as big, especially without Austria there. Poland's as big as Germany. Why aren't they, both major powers? And, and you go, well, what if we had peace for 40 years and Poland built up its industry and then it's a major? Yeah, okay, but we're not playing, at least in my mind, I'm not trying to build for EU 20th century. I'm building for this 10 to 15 year time period. So no matter how big Poland is, even if it takes Lithuania and Latvia and takes Slovakia or something like that and gets even bigger, it still ain't going to be a major. Even if Sweden takes Norway and Finland and Denmark, it still really isn't a major. It just able to defeat a few minors around it and maybe be better defended from attacks from Germany, because it does have more industry and more manpower, but it still isn't a major. England on its own would not be, in my opinion, it would not be a major. It was because it also had, now I still have questions about the British Raj as being a separate entity. I know that, I believe that's mostly done so that India isn't too undefended by the AI, because India has massive manpower, but it's purely a voluntary army. So if you modeled the manpower for an independent India, it gets sort of screwy. So I sort of get that, but then obviously it has, all these other territories and resources. So that's what I'm talking about with that. And with its colonial empire, it is a major. And so yes, so if somehow theoretically Poland had Britain's colonial empire, including Britain, and whether you want to count, and obviously to some degree they are very much part of the empire at this time, and they were obviously breaking somewhat more independent as well at this time. Little less direct colonial rule. In South Africa, though, was completely colonial rule. They did have localized government, most assuredly, but the predominant population was anti-British, the Afrikaners. So it's sort of only with all of that does Britain really end up being a major. And same with France. Well, no, well, France's colonies weren't quite as a big effect. There was a lot of reasons in France as well, just France to be a major. So it sort of shows up majors and majors and minors, and why Belgium, if you have this sort of setup, Belgium would not ever be able to conquer the world, just because the ministers they would lack in tech industry. So I'm not sure about how much I want to expand the theorists. I want to do a theorist for each, at least one for the army, whether that's a tank theorist or whether it also would cover theorists for other types of tech development. And then I want to have a naval and air power theorist to do that. And again, now I'm of course looking at Third Reich events, and so what I would go through these and break these up between Navy and Air Force and whatnot. Curtis LeMay and that's his Air Force post World War II blue uniform. The Air Force didn't exist during World War II. It was the Army Air Corps. They wore Army uniforms. Yeah, there were some badges on the uniforms that showed them to be part of the Air Corps, but they were in the Army. It wasn't until post-war, but that they separated out. But to have and that would be a fairly easy thing to just cut and paste that in. And so, yep, maybe starting out, there would just be, well, we also have air warfare theorist here, McClellan here. So still in an army uniform, which is good. And I don't. So that the U.S. would be able to fill its slots potentially in some of these theorist applications. Pick which one, because it would just be one theorist for each of these. But that where Germany might have, when I get done with this, 2 or 3 times as many theorists, but they would still only be able to put one in, just more choices. That doesn't mean Germany is overpowered, it just means it's overpowering it, just a little more flexible, is how I look at that. So, I know I've sort of interrupted the playthrough for all this, but I really would like your ideas on splitting up at least the theorists and splitting up staffs for the military and, if you will, creating specialized government slots instead of generic slots, so that you got to pick your internal security guy, or we don't really have intelligence in this game, so we don't have an intelligence slot anymore. But whether it's like a propaganda minister slot or a foreign minister slot or whatever, you'd sort of pick your slot and fill that for that. So, and I don't know how many slots just yet I would have for this. Probably sort of in the 6 range. I think, well, let's see. Do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I could probably fit in 4 more slots. I don't know if this will be able to scroll. No, it looks like they've designed it to scroll. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, let's continue here a little bit more. Okay, the 4th Internationale. Nothing else, that should show you the danger of communism. They believe that they need to rescue the world from prosperity and independence, and not just let themselves be themselves. Okay, the Munich Agreement. No war this year then. Well, good. Britain and France announced alliance based out of problems with Germany and carrier primacy. Okay, good. Now, Bureau of Aeronautics, research naval bombers, that's nice. I've just sort of been saving this for get to the 1940 tax. That's how I look at that, because we'll need all of those. Well, I want to expand the government. I mean, there's a lot of good things. And we're playing the DiDay mod, of course. I think, and if you ever listens to this series, I think some of these texts here, the time should be shortened from 70 days. So I don't think you need to do 70 days to expand the Marine Corps so much. You know, 20 days, something like that. Oh, Soviet withdrawal. After the battle, after a buildup of Japanese forces on Manchuria, the Soviet Union appears to have unexpectedly withdrawn its units that were stationed right there. Okay. Lasting peace. Okay, well, that would be nice. Well, we're going to end the episode here. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. And of course, please post questions, comments. Really, this episode would be good here or on the Third Reich events, on possible government changes. And that, I would really love your input. Not that I'm going to follow the majority opinion, but I know I don't have all the answers. I just know that. So I really want to have other people's ideas. And not just, oh, it sounds good. I mean, that's fine. I appreciate your support, but why you think my ideas are good is also useful, helps me, but also why you might think something should either not be done or be done slightly different. I really appreciate that. It helps with building the mods, and a lot of people will be playing those, I hope. So, see you next time for more Hearts of Iron.